Yeah, I'm stacking them, yeah, yeah. Running with country bass, country bass. Yeah, I'm stacking them, yeah, yeah. Running with country bass, country bass. Yeah, I'm stacking them, yeah, yeah. Running with country bass, country bass. Yeah, I'm stacking them, yeah, yeah. Running with country bass, country bass. Yeah, I'm stacking them, yeah, yeah. Running with country bass, country bass.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Bitcoin Chris checking in yet again. Happy Thursday. How's it already Thursday, man? The time needs to slow down. My goodness. My goodness. Hope you guys are having a great day, great evening, great morning, wherever you are and whenever you're tuning in. What's up to you guys? We're looking at the Bitcoin price real quick. I'm on my phone. I don't have my laptop. My laptop died. I was in the library. I slid out. And I wanted to go live real quick. I'm about to go to another coffee spot here in Orlando. And before I do, I just want to jump on here real quick and do a live stream. So we're looking at the Bitcoin price. It's looking like we are going to come down a little bit. We could possibly come down to the $105,000 level and then head higher. We have a low of 104, or we could reverse it, head higher. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens, right? We're going to have to wait to see what happens. All right. But today's video, not only are we going to go over the Bitcoin price, which is what we're doing now. I didn't really get to do any other. I didn't get to do any other screenshots of the, because when you're on the mobile phone, I can't really share the screen, which is weird. But yeah, we're just gonna go over the Bitcoin price real quick. And today's video is just about Bitcoin hitting all-time highs. As you can see here, Bitcoin's all-time high is $112,000. So shout out to Bitcoin. Shout out to everybody that's been stacking away. I wanted to get on here and show you guys some of these old tweets or the old posts that I have, but I guess I'll do it tomorrow. I wanted to go over the main thing of today's episode is about the UCC one. So we're gonna go ahead and jump into that because I don't want to waste any more time. Head over to swanbitcoin.com/Bitcoin Chris. Get your $10 free Bitcoin. Obviously, if you have not gotten your fold card by now, again, I don't know, I say the same thing every day or every time I come live. Get your fold app ASAP Rocky. Let's see here. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and get started. And all right, cool. Cool. So I know it's going to be kind of hard to see. Like I said, I'm not on my laptop because if I'm on my laptop, it'd be a lot different, and a lot easier to see. But no worries. Just try to pay attention. Try to zoom in if you can. We're going to learn about the UCC one today, why it's so important, and why you should file one, right? It's $35 here in Orlando or in Florida, and every state has their own UCC financing statement. This is something that Donald Trump uses to get out of his, he uses it to his advantage. You should use it to your advantage. You know, we're going to talk about what it is right now, all right? So I hope you guys are ready. Another educational content video. It's for high level people that want to get out of the system or at least learn about the system so you can then move accordingly, right? So let's make this very simple, make it very clear. When you were born, the government created a trust account in your name using your birth certificate. That account is known in law as a legal fiction, and then you hear people call it the straw man. And it's written in all caps letters. This is something that I've been talking about for a while. When you get your bills in the mail, it's in all caps. When you get sued, if you do get sued or if you have gotten sued, your name is in all caps. If you look on your driver's license, your name is in all caps. That is not you. That is your corporate name, your government name, the legal fiction. And we need to understand that A1, person, you see, you can't even use these words, right? Because if you understood what person means, then you know that an entity or a corporation is considered a person. So every living man or woman has two parts to them. You have your spirit, and then you have your body and flesh. So you have your spirit and you have your body and flesh. You have to understand these things, right? That's very simple, very easy to understand. I know a lot of us think that we are the body. We are not the body. We are the spirit in control of the body. It even says that in the Bible. Your spirit will go back to God whenever you leave this earth, and our bodies are made of the dirt, right? And of the earth. So your body is real estate, and you are the spirit controlling the body. Okay, that's something that you need to understand. Let's continue. So the all caps name, when they spell out your name in these, you need to have a legal fiction to operate commercially. So that's why you need your all caps name to obviously get the license, and that's how you operate in commerce. But that's not the living you. That's the corporate fiction under commercial law. This concept is confirmed in the Black Laws Dictionary, legal fiction, an assumption that something which is or may be false is true, especially as a device in legal reasoning. When a state issues a birth certificate, it does create a trust through the U.S. Department of Commerce. That certificate is a financial instrument backed by House Joint Resolution 192 of June 5th, 1933, and the Emergency Banking Relief Act. This took lawful money out of circulation and made everyone a commercial debtor. And because gold and silver was removed, they took everybody off the gold standard, right? But what they didn't tell you is that you can claim ownership of your legal fiction. And until you do, the system assumes you're the one who owes everything: taxes, fines, interest, debt, because you never corrected the record. So, this is where the UCC 1 comes into play. So, the UCC 1, it's a financing statement. Under UCC, which is a Universal Commercial Code, which every state has their own Universal Commercial Code for their state, but it's based on the overall Universal Commercial Code. All right. And this form gives public notice that you, the living man or woman, are now a secured party. Secured party. That means you own the all caps legal fiction. That means you own the trust and you control all the assets tied into that account. So until you file a UCC 1, you don't own anything. This is why you have to pay these quote unquote debts. And debts, every time there's a debt, there's a credit. Every time there's a credit, there's a debit. Double sided bookkeeping. Not going to jump into that now. The legal fiction, John Doe, for an example, becomes the debtor. So now, since you control and own the name and you own the trust and you control the assets tied to the account because your name is tied to the account, your all caps name is tied to the birth certificate, which is tied to your social security number. So that is an account or an estate. You can call it an estate or you can call it the account or whatever you want to call it. The legal fiction, John Doe becomes the debtor. So the all caps name is not you, the living man. So let's just give you guys easy examples. Bitcoin Chris, let's just say for an example, that's my real name. And I'm probably going to change my name to that anyway. But I'm doing business as Bitcoin Chris. But, anyways, for this example, let's just say my real name is Bitcoin Chris, spelt the proper way: capital B, lowercase I, T, Coin, and then capital C, lowercase h, ris. That would be my normal spelling in the living man's name. Okay. Then Bitcoin Chris in all caps would be the debtor, if I did enter into any commercial um, obligations or contracts, like a phone bill, like a water bill, like a lease agreement, or a loan. When you sign those documents, you are not signing as the living man, you're signing as the legal fiction, the all caps name. Okay? So that all caps name becomes the debtor, not you as the living man. Again, you're two people in one. You have to grasp this. God gave us a spirit. The spirit is the one controlling the body. Once you understand this, it's not rocket science. Excuse me. John Doe or Bitcoin Chris becomes the debtor. The all caps name becomes the debtor, and then me or I, the living man, becomes the creditor. We credit. We are the ones who give the credit. We're the ones that give the power. We're the ones that create the money, because when you create the money, because there is no contract. There is no Nothing happens without your signature. For you to get the loan or to create the loan, because that's what happens is that you create the loan. You have to sign your contract. You have to sign your agreement. You have to sign, the loan. You have to sign the documents, right? So nothing takes place until you sign. And because you're the living man, you're the one who gives power in life and gives the value, and you are the creditor. Okay? That's what it means by creditor. This matters because in law, creditors have rights, debtors have obligations. So that's why you have to pay the debt whenever you default on an obligation or a loan, because you have not filed a UCC1 statement. So when you do file a UCC1, you're not just doing paperwork, you're establishing superior legal standing. And this is called perfecting a security interest under UCC 9-203, which requires a signed security agreement. Value given a secured party has rights in the collateral. The collateral is the name, the social security number, the birth certificate, your signature, all the property connected to the legal fiction. You include all that in the collateral affidavit. Okay, so let's continue. Once you file the UCC1 with the Secretary of State, it becomes a first lien. That means you're now first in line. Even the IRS, banks, etc., must recognize that you have claimed the estate or the account, right? You claim it. And here's what it unlocks. Let me go to the next page because I'm not on the right page. Boom. I'm reading on a different phone because it's a little hard to read on there. But it's all good. All right, so boom, John Doe. All right, cool. Social security number, boom. The collateral is the social security number, birth certificate, your signature, all the property, and all property connected to the legal fiction. You include all that in the collateral affidavit or the collateral clause, right? Because when you fill out the affidavit, see, I'm gonna show you guys my UCC one because it is what it is. I'm gonna show you guys everything that I'm talking to you guys about. I keep telling you, I have it. I'm not talking about this because I don't have it. I have it. I'm gonna show you guys my UCC one once we're done with this lesson. Okay, so stay tuned. Excuse me. Hit that like, share, subscribe, and let's continue. Once you file the UCC one, it becomes first lien, which means you're first in line. Even the IRS and the banks must recognize that you claim the estate. Here's what that unlocks: you can act as the authorized agent and sign as such. So instead of you signing regularly, you have to sign your name, comma, authorized agent for the all caps legal fiction. And once you sign this way, you are now letting it be known that you're the authorized representative and you're not the legal fiction. You have to make that. You have to make that distinction. Okay. You can reject unauthorized claims and demand contracts under UCC 3-305, which gives you the right to challenge any negotiable instrument not backed by full disclosure or consent. And they never give you full disclosure because they don't tell you that you're the one who gives the value. And they don't tell you that they securitize your note. It's called asset backed securities, ABS, or mortgage backed securities. And they don't tell you that your promissory note is the money, nor the contract or agreement is the money. So, you know, when you understand what's going on, things start to change. You can request GAAP compliant accounting. Every corporation, every bank, I think, are obligated to bank. I think this really pertains to banking. You know, GAAP compliant accounting, meaning they must show the full debit and credit side. So this is what I just said earlier, that every credit has a debit and every debit has a credit. When you start to understand that, then you understand that there is no debt really, because it's only a debt because you never credit the account. And you when you don't credit the account, then you don't fulfill your obligation, if that makes sense. So let's continue. Under 15 USC 1605, truth in lending. If there's no contract signed by the real you, no wet ink, excuse me, not digital, you can demand cancellation or set off. You can demand the original instrument being, again, the contract, under Florida rules of evidence, which says only the original document can be used to prove the content of a writing. Copies and statements are not proofs. So when they send you, so when you get sued by a debt collector, for an example, and they send you the billing statements of each month, that's not evidence. And because we're naive and ignorant of the facts of law, right? They get it off on us, right? They need the original signed contract, okay? Not a copy, not a certified copy, the original, and that's based on the rules, federal rules of evidence 1002. Okay, GAAP. Okay, cool. Next slide. Excuse me. So let's see, 12 USC 401. Let's see, where's that at? All right, cool. This is how you legally settle debts by using the UCC one. You can settle debt, discharge obligations, and enforce recoupment, which means repayment, because everything tied to the legal fiction is now a trust asset that you control. Even courts have spoken on this. So they have some case law that was provided here. However, what we're going to do is we'll talk about the case law a little bit later. I did go over a couple reasons and ask why it did provide a couple of these case laws, but let's just read what it says here. Even courts have spoken on this. Crandall versus Nevada: the right to travel is a part of liberty which a citizen cannot be deprived without due process. I keep telling you guys, there is no there you don't need a it's against, you cannot get in trouble for driving, or you can get in trouble for driving with a license, but you're allowed to travel. And to travel, you do not need a license. I'll show you guys the paperwork here as well because I have the Supreme Court ruling that says no license necessary to travel. But you do need a license to drive. Okay? So I'm gonna show you all that, and I'm gonna show you the UCC one once we're done with this lesson. USA versus Minker. Because of constitutional restrictions, a person cannot be compelled to act as an agent for a fictitious entity. And then it says Rodriguez versus FDIC confirms that the IRS does not automatically have first claim over funds in a trust. Now, remember, I was telling you guys about the trust, why you guys should get a trust. Trust this, trust that, church trust, private trust, living trust, dynasty trust. All right. I hope you guys are paying attention. A lot of this stuff starts to click when you start to pay attention. Now ask yourself, if your name is a trust and you're not the one claiming it, who is? Because somebody's profiting off your energy, your labor, and your contracts. This isn't conspiracy. The Federal Reserve openly states that the Federal Reserve notes are promises to pay, which I've been telling you guys. That dollar that you have is a promissory note, which means you're going to promise to pay in the future. The reason why it's a promissory note, aka a debt note, is because they took away gold and silver. And that's the real money. So if there's no real money, there's no way to extinguish any debts. Instead, we use a form of a medium of exchange. It would be the correct terminology with the dollars, with the Federal Reserve notes, aka dollar bills that we use. So let's continue. Their promises to pay. The Federal Reserve notes and the dollars that we have are are promises to pay. It's not lawful money and are backed by your labor through collateralized debt obligations. So under 12 USC 411, I was talking about this months ago. You can demand to be paid in lawful money, not debt notes, and you can notify institutions that you have redeemed your name. That's why the UCC won a step one. It's your legal flag in the ground telling the system, I'm no longer lost at sea. I'm a claim vessel. I claim the name. You claiming your name. All right? So if you're ready to take that step, do it with full knowledge. Get your UCC one, your security agreement, your notice of interest, and make it public record. So if you want help doing it right, no guesswork, not on YouTube, backed by a lawful process, I'll show you how to file. Let me know. Let's continue. I asked uh why were these cases important, right? So context for the first law, which is Crandall versus Nevada, which is what you see down at the bottom of the screen. Let's go here. Why it's relevant. Context: the case dealt with Nevada tax trying to charge people for traveling out of the state. The Supreme Court struck it down, affirming that travel is the fundamental right and can't be taxed or restricted without violating due process under the Constitution. When you assert, let me go to the next screen for you guys. Boom. Boom. When you assert your status as a secured party, you're rejecting the presumption that you are engaged in regulated commercial activity like driving a vehicle for hire. What did I just say? You do need a license to drive. You don't need a license to travel. And if you are driving, then you're driving for hire. It means you're in commercial capacity, which means they have the power over you to regulate and give you a ticket and pull you over and arrest you and fine you and all that stuff, right? So and instead of affirming your common law right to travel, not as a corporate person, but as a living man or woman, this quote supports your position that you're not the legal fiction, being regulated. You have a right to travel freely. Does not need a license unless you're engaged in commerce. Agencies can't lawfully enforce contracts or statutory obligations like fines, taxes, or fees without due process or consent. Just don't consent. Just don't consent. All right, boom. Number two, U.S. versus Minker, quoted because the U.S. Constitution restrictions cannot a person cannot be compelled to act as an agent for a fictitious entity. So the case involved Jehovah's Witness who was being forced by a government agent to answer questions and act in the capacity that could implicate him or others, potentially violating his rights. Why is it relevant? Here, the court emphasized that a living man cannot be forced to perform on behalf of a fictional entity, whether it's a corporation, legal fiction, or a trust, especially without proper authority or consent. In your context, this is gold. By default, the state, the IRS, and the banks treat you as the agent for the strawman all caps name, meaning you are held liable for the debts. You're being held liable for the charges, taxes, and obligations incurred by the fictional corporate entity that has been created without your consent. We all got one. We all got legal fictions, guys. We all got legal fictions. Okay, we're on number two. U.S. versus Minker. Sorry, 1956. Boom. By default, boom. Yep. When you filed the UCC one financial statement and claim status secure party, you're formally refusing to be the agent without valid agreement or compensation. It supports your right to separate yourself from the fictitious enemy or fictitious entity, refusing liability for debts or legal duties tied to the legal fiction or straw man. Demand proper authority, contract, or jurisdiction before acting on the entity's behalf. It proves that you're not compelled to act as a surety for an artificial entity and that you did not create and did not contract knowingly or voluntarily. So let's go to the next slide. Boom. All right. Summary of inclusion. Two cases: reinforce your constitutional rights, travel and due process, protect you from being forced to serve the straw man, a government created entity. All right, provided support and the purpose of filing UCC1, claim ownership and reject any presumed agency. Create a foundation of law, self governance, private contracts, and rejection of implied commercial jurisdiction. All right. And then it says they give credibility, constitutional weight, and case law muscle to the UCC1 filing process and your legal position as the living creditor, not the debtor slave presumed by the system. Okay? Very important. Now, at the bottom, we're here at the common law of Jesus Christ, right? Because everything is based on the common law, everything generates from the Bible. I don't know if you guys know this, but, you know, the common law of Jesus Christ and the common law is where everything stems from. Whether you know it or not, or accept it or not, or care or not, it is what it is. Okay. So at the bottom it says number one, common law of Jesus Christ. The common law originates from the Bible, particularly the teachings of Jesus Christ, who taught, "Do no harm, keep your word, and treat others as you wanted to be treated." This is timeless and universal. It recognizes that all men and women are created equal under God and endowed with unalienable excuse me, rights. Unalienable rights. All right. Boom. So let's go to the next page. Boom. Bible foundation is only one lawgiver judge. He was able to save and destroy. Love your neighbor as yourself. Under common law, this is the very important thing, guys. This is why I say you have to learn the law. Under common law, if there is no victim, there is no crime. So if you run a red light on accident, obviously you don't want to do it on purpose, right? But if you run a red light and you don't hurt anybody, no victim, no crime. No injured party, no crime. You're liable only if you cause harm, loss, or injury, excuse me, or if you break a contract. The law is grounded in natural rights, excuse me, not privileges granted by the state. Common law is recognized in American jurisprudence. The common law is the will of mankind issuing from the life of the people. Boom. The next is trust law. So, now we're going into the trust law. Boom. We're going to go. I asked this to give me the hierarchy and, the laws of the land, how it works, right? So, first you have the common law. Then you have trust law. The moment you're born, the state creates a trust, the Sesta v. Trust, right? Using your name and birth certificate under the 1933 Emergency Banking Relief Act. This is a constructive trust where you are the beneficiary, the state or the U.S. Treasury acts as the trustee in the legal fiction. Excuse me, all caps name is the estate. What did I just say earlier? It is the estate. We all have estates. I didn't know I had an estate until I started reading. I thought estates is only for like billionaires, right? No, we have an estate as well. Trust law says that the trustee must act in your best interest. The state or the U.S. Treasury and the trustee must act in your best interest. But most governments act as if you're the trustee, flipping the role unless you rebut that presumption. Legal fact. Next page. In all cases involving a trust, the presumption is that the creator of the trust remains the owner of the trust, unless a clear intention is shown otherwise. So when you file a UCC 1, you take your rightful position as the grantor, secure party of the trust. You regain beneficial control of your estate. Contract laws, third. And everything in commerce is contract. And on the law of contracts, one basic truth stands. No one is bound by a contract unless he has agreed to it voluntarily. So that's why I keep telling you guys. Article 1, Section 10. No state shall pass any law impairing the obligations of a contract. That's why trusts are powerful, because it's a contract. Statutes, codes, ordinances, mandates. None of these apply to you unless you consented to the contract. But how do they trick you into it? Using your legal name, assuming your silence is consent, and getting your signature on applications, licenses, and forms. Under maxims of law, consent makes the law, right? So if you consent to it, you said it's okay. If you didn't sign it, agree to it, or get full disclosure, there is no lawful contract. So this is why I keep telling you guys, if you know what's going on and they didn't disclose certain things, or they lied, or they omitted, then that contract is null and void. It's fraudulent contract. And that's why you must reserve your rights under UCC 1-308, which says a party that with explicit reservation of rights performs does not prejudice the rights reserved. Excuse me. The law merchant. We're going to go to number 4. Law merchant. The law merchant is the private law of commerce practiced between merchants long before statutory law existed. It is now encoded in the UCC, which governs all negotiable instruments, contracts, security interests, and commercial paper. That's why I keep telling you guys. You guys don't have to listen to me. The UCC is the law, and it governs all negotiable instruments, which is what we use. All contracts, which is what we're in when we sign for a lease or a loan, right? Or an agreement, right? Contract, lease, agreement, et cetera, et cetera. Security interest. You guys remember the video I wrote? I did with the Navy Federal credit card. You guys go pull out your car loan right now. Go pull out your any loan that you have if you have the paperwork. Go pull out your credit card agreement if you have Navy Federal, right? It says it in the contract or in the agreement. You give us a security interest, right? So if you are the one granting them the security interest, then you're the one who, you're the one who gave them security interest, guys. And the UCC governs again all negotiable instruments. What's a negotiable instrument? Check, draft, money order, um, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to dive into that today. And commercial paper. If you operate in commerce, you are seen as a merchant unless you rebut the presumption. The UCC is not statutory law, it's private commercial law, but they apply to you, the living man, by assuming you're a merchant acting in commerce through the legal fiction. That's why you get bills. Let me go to the next page because, boom. That's why you get bills. That's why you're sued in the all caps name, and that's why you owe debts even when no contracts exist. But once you file the UCC 1 and separate yourself from the legal fiction all caps name, you re enter the world of private contract where you can challenge jurisdiction, standing, capacity, and the validity of the claim itself. Number 5, the living man or statutory law versus living man. Statutes and rules are for legal persons. corporations, and citizens, not for living men and women. So a U.S. citizen is different from a United States of American, of America. And I'm a citizen of the United States of America. You see the difference of that, and versus a U.S. citizen. There's something called the District of Columbia, the state of Florida, the state of California versus Florida state versus California state, Texas state, right? The District of Columbia covers all 50 states because they have the state of insert case or state, sorry. And then they also have the state of Florida state, right? Or New York state, Mississippi State. You have to understand these things. Lots of nuances here. But statues are for legal persons, corporations, and citizens, not for living men and women. A person under statutory law is a legal fiction, not a living soul. Applies to those who accept benefits and privileges of the government. Requires voluntary adhesion, contracts. Operates in equity, not law. But the living man and woman are governed by natural law, God's law, and the common law, unless they step into commercial jurisdiction and consent. If you're the living man and have not consented, then statutory law is presumed not proven. That's why filing a UCC 1 statement. That's why filing a UCC 1 statement using non assumptive in court and asserting status as a private American national or state national are the methods used to remove yourself from statutory jurisdiction and return to your proper status as a man, not a debtor. Okay? So we're skipping down to lawful hierarchy of authority, highest to lowest. So obviously we have God's law, number one. Then we have the Constitution of the United States. Then you have common law. Then we have contract law. Then we have trust law. Then we have law of merchant. And then last, all right, then last you have statutes, codes, regulation, and ordinances created by legislatures for persons, citizens, residences, taxpayers, corporate entities, not for the living man and woman, unless you consented to it. These are the inferior laws that the corporate or the that operate on the color of law, not law itself. Color of law is not law itself. Okay, boom. All right, so let's continue next. Yes, you're always the living man. No contract, license, or government document can change your status as a living being made in the image of God, where He's the legal key. If you don't rebut the presumption that you are an agent or surety for the legal fiction, the system will process or proceed as if you are the legal fiction and apply statutes, taxes, and obligations to you. So let's break this down legally, factually, and constitutionally. You remain the living man. You remain the living man, no matter what. The moment you take your first breath, you're a living soul, not a corporate fiction, not a citizen, not a person under statutory law. Even if you have a social security number, driver's license, passport, etc., etc. This only means you've engaged in commercial relationship with the state. It doesn't mean that you've given up your God-given rights unless you remain silent and fail to reserve those rights. Two, the system operates on presumption of consent. All statutory systems are based on contract and consent. If you sign documents without reserving your rights, the system presumes you're acting as a U.S. citizen. You are the debtor for the legal fiction. You are voluntary, or you have voluntary submitted to the public policy jurisdiction. Even in that case, you still have the lawful Even in that case, you still have the lawful right to correct your status and remove yourself from the presumption. UCC 1-308, your legal safety net. Even if you sign government contracts, you can preserve your rights. This means that you can sign your driver's license, social security application without giving up your rights as long as you reserve them on the document or via declaration. How? Like this: sign John Doe without prejudice, or send in a declaration of status and reservation of rights via an affidavit and record it publicly. Number four, contract was likely fraudulent anyway. Of course, exactly what I just said earlier. For any reason, for any contract to be enforceable, it must include or meet three conditions. Full disclosure. Did they tell you everything? They do not tell you everything. Therefore, it's fraud. Equal consideration. When you sign your contract or for your loan, especially for your mortgage, for those of you guys that have houses, they're not giving you anything of value. You provided the value when you signed. Okay? If you did not sign, there would not be any contract. No consideration has been given because they didn't give you anything. You gave everything. Your signature created the credit. They don't give you any money. And that's how you can beat these people in court is you ask them, for example, if a bank tries to sue you for a loan that they gave you, quote unquote gave you, money that they gave you and they're suffering a quote unquote loss, then they're gonna have to prove that they suffered a loss via GAAP, and they're gonna have to show that they suffered a loss. They can't do that. Why? Because they never lent you money. Banks can't lend you money, guys. They can they can only lend credits. They can only provide credits, and the credit is actually given by you. I digress. Voluntary consent, where you coerce or misled. Yeah, yeah, you were misled. Most government contracts fail all three. Woo! Not me saying this, all right? It's just facts. That makes them voidable at law. You can revoke, rescind, or demand verification under Truth in Lending, Federal Rules of Evidence, and the UCC 3-305. All right, let's jump to the next one. Boom. Status correction equals jurisdictional shift. File the UCC 1 financial statement. Record your affidavit of status. Declare yourself as a secured party and authorized representative. You shift from the public fiction debtor to the private man creditor. A citizen in the United States is a citizen of the government created by the Constitution. A citizen of the United States is a citizen of the government created by the Constitution and not of the several states. So, yes, even if you sign documents in the past, your living status never changes. What matters is that you affirm your living status, rebut any legal presumption, and enforce your rights under the law. And then, bottom line here is the state can only bind the legal fiction, not the living man. You are always free, always sovereign by creation, but freedom must be inserted, rights must be enforced. He who fails to assert his rights have none. All right. So he who fails to assert his rights have none. All right. So now that that is done, let's get over to what I said I was going to show you guys. Let's get over to the camera is how do you fix that? Let me do settings. It is inverted, no mirror. Boom, there it is. U.S. Supreme Court says no license necessary to drive automobile on public highways and streets. This is from 2015. U.S. Supreme Court and other high court citations proving that no license necessary for normal use of an automobile on common ways. The right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon by horse drawn carriage, wagon, or automobile is not a mere privilege which may be permitted or prohibited at will, but a common right which he has under the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Under this constitutional guarantee, one may therefore, under normal conditions, travel in his inclination along the public highways or in public places, or and while conducting himself in an orderly and decent manner, neither interfering with nor disturbing another's rights. He will be protected not only in his persons but in his safe conduct. Thompson versus Smith. The right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property. Right. So boom. Everything I tell you guys, it's look it up for yourself. Yes, you do need a license to travel. To drive. I'm sorry. You need a license to travel. You don't need a license to. You need a license to drive. Pardon me. You need a license to drive. Uber driver, truck driver, and driving in commerce. So, yes, if you're driving, you need a license. If you're not driving for commercial purposes, you do not need a license. But I keep telling you guys, and I have a whole bunch of idiots, low IQ idiots that want to fight me on this. But I don't care what you say. Because the U.S. Supreme Court says otherwise, and our constitutional rights say otherwise. And I just read it for you. Go look it up yourself. I have this in the whip in case they want to come crazy. And I mean they by the popo, right? Come on, guys, stop playing with me. Now I'm gonna show you guys my UCC one. Give me 1 second. Let me grab my paperwork. Let me grab my paperwork. Kind of hard to see. Filed. Okay. Boom. 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 Let's see if I can read this for you guys real quick. All right. Cool. I'm just gonna read it out loud. And then it's also yeah, I got all this on here, all this too. So I'm probably not gonna read everything, but I should, but maybe I won't. Whew. Boy, if I tell you this ain't the craziest collateral clause that I done ever done seen. Woo! Tell you what. All right, cool. So basically, this is saying that the collateral is all rights, titles, interests, equitable claims, proceeds, entitlements, and security interests of the secured party in and to any and all property, tangible, intangible, real or personal, physical or digital, held in any jurisdiction arising from or relating to any agreements, contracts, instruments, financing statements, liens, promissory notes, mortgages, leases, deeds, trusts, applications, obligations, any and all commercial papers bearing or referencing the name, my name, and any variation thereof. This includes and is not limited to all assets, property, credit energy, monetize signatures, equity, securities, shadow paper, accounts, bank accounts, escrow funds, documents of title, electronic records, email identifiers, usernames, financial profiles, transaction histories, ledgers, deposits, accounts, trust property, certificates of title, and any financial or beneficial interest in real property, personal property, vehicles, purchase and sale agreements, commercial contracts, settlement estates, inheritances, rights of reversion or expectation. Further, substitute a securitized what do they do? Hypo hypothecate, excuse me, hypothecated collateral or endorse. This collateral assignment includes all value created and arising from and assigned to the secured party commercial performance or signature under Florida statutes. And named a bunch of statutes. Law merchants in there. The collateral should not include, but is not limited to, the secured derivatives, party's name, likeness, biometric identifiers, signature, autograph, social security number, birth, account number, derivatives, credit profiles, consumer reports, authentication data, all intellectual property, all commercial implies to all transactions, securities, entitlements, obligations issued through or by or on behalf of any variation of the name, and is not including but not limited to all the different ways that you can spell my name and different variations of the name. Boom. And all other legal fictions, rendering, abbreviation, spelling, digital identifiers, uppercase, lowercase, initialed, hyphenated, or symbolic construct in a private or commercial, administrative, or governmental records or transactions that the secured party holds a perfected first position, security interest in all prescribed collateral above, together with all ascensions, proceeds, substitutions, and extensions thereof, whether held in private, public, depository, or fiduciary capacity. This collateral assignment is effective globally, universal, and applies in all jurisdictions, and may be released by written authorization of the secured party. Woo! That's a powerful ass statement right there. Okay? That's what you call a powerful ass statement right there. Biometric, my fingerprints, my eyeball scans, my hair follicles, my DNA is my property. And if y'all want to take my property and use it, you're going to have to pay me, right? I have the first in line. I'm first in line. I own it, right? The living man, the spirit Chris, the spirit Bitcoin Chris owns the physical body and the all caps name and all the accounts, everything associated with me and my accounts that's ever been and ever will be, that was, that is, and ever will be, is owned by the living man, point blank, period. Unless I change it or have written consent, right? Written notice, right? Written notice, right? Bank accounts, all that, right? Everything is pretty much, covered here. Everything is pretty much covered here. I might need a minute because I thought it was, I thought I added, I thought I had everything in the past and in the future, but maybe I skipped over it. I don't know. Either way, man, that's the UCC one, guys. Okay, UCC one, very powerful. Every state has one. Go look it up yourself. You can travel, no license. Don't let them tell you that you can't. You have a right to. You have a right to bear arms. So make sure you stay strapped because there's a lot of slapjacks out there acting crazy, and you would rather be caught with it than without it. You would rather be caught with it than without it. Can't even find it. There it is. You would rather be caught with it than without it. I don't know why people don't like guns. 444. 444. All right. So with that being said, All right. So with that being said, we're looking pretty good. Looks like we're done for the day. Nice little hour video. Make sure I get on here and show you guys and tell you guys what's up. Drop some gems, drop some knowledge. Go look up the UCC one and go see if that's something that you want to do and file for all your accounts and to show the bank that you own the legal fiction and that the bank account is yours, like you own it. You can do whatever you want with it. Do some research. I'm not going to tell you what to do, how to do it. I'm just telling you guys what I'm doing, what I have done, and my experiences. So, with that being said, I know Donald Trump uses the UCC as well. So, you phone died. Probably the fastest that my phone has ever turned back on. And my phone has died. Back camera, boom. All right. So, anyways, with that being said, guys, I am outie. Hopefully, you guys learned something new. Hopefully, you guys go look up the UCC in your state, and hopefully, you guys can file and get that. Stop being a debtor and become the creditor and the living man. So, with that being said, stack your Bitcoin and chill. The camera won't turn on, so there it is. Cool. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bitcoin Chris checking out. I know my phone is hot. I'll see you guys in the next video. Stack your Bitcoin and chill. Get your trust. And I will see you in the next video.